This episode of A Beacon of Hope is proudly brought to you by Campfire Studios. Campfire Studios is an impact-led organisation amplifying the voices of Māori and Pasifika communities via podcasting and video content. To find out more, visit campfirestudios.co.nz. 2, 3, 4. A Beacon of Hope is a weekly podcast that shines a light on the human spirit and explores the power of hope in our lives. Join me, Will Fleming, as I talk to people from all walks of life about where they find hope and how they use it to navigate life's challenges.
Be good, be safe, and be happy.
Okay, turn the radio off. I am driving in the car, so we'll just take it easy. I'd like to welcome everybody to this on-the-road edition of A Beacon of Hope, a mobile beacon of hope. As I've been driving on my latest journey, I was thinking about hope, as I often do. It's partly the reason I started this podcast, and I guess an image emerged in my mind, which was hope. And what is it? And it confronted me a bit because the next image or question I had was, when have I used hope? And I mean used in a specific way. I think you probably have to use it. You're using it as a step ladder to get through something. And I guess that's the topic of this conversation. So when I am thinking about me, I think these kind of things, positivity, strength, honesty, kindness. I hardly ever think of the word trauma or traumatized. And I think partly it's because I've mentioned in the podcast before that I'm very lucky, I'm very blessed. I had support networks, lots of things on my side. A friend of mine, Jimmy Hunt, calls it I think it's a mental health scale. A continuum, mental health continuum. I believe that's what Jimmy Hunt calls it. And on that continuum is where your strength lies. If you're starting at a 20 out of 100 and things come in and impact you, those traumas, then that's going to hit your continuum. And the lower you get down there, the deeper you get in there. And so for me, I think I would say I'm somewhere at an 80 or 90. That's how I truly believe that I'm very lucky. Feel like I'm born optimistic, but I have had this trauma that I did have to use hope, and I thought I would try to articulate that. Just before I do, the other thought that emerged to me is maybe there's something therapeutic about saying this today. I don't feel like I've been burying it, but I definitely don't make an effort to speak it because I feel like I leveraged that hope. I used that step ladder of hope when I called upon it. So here we go. In 2011, my wife and I had a baby. And when that baby was born, it didn't cry. She didn't cry. It was one of the most terrifying moments of my life. This was the third born. So I was prepared for the same as the first and second, which was this cry, this cry for joy when life emerges out of the womb. Just a quick insert while I'm editing this podcast. That was the cry of my second eldest when he was a baby. That's the same dude who put together the intro ukulele. Say hello.
Hey.
And this baby, she didn't cry. And of course, you are in that operating theatre, in that delivery room, you are the least prepared, but you have the most on your shoulders. And it was a hard birth. was a hard birth. It was a hard pregnancy, actually. We're optimistic. We have a high continuum, or we're high on the continuum, I would say, on a good day. The positivity still ran deep. And as it emerged, month-long journey of trying to understand what happened and so on and so on. And maybe the details of this I will keep between me and my loved ones. But in essence, this little baby couldn't move, couldn't breathe on her own, would survive a month, maybe a bit longer, while the doctors needed to test to see if there was anything they could do and to test what is actually going on. They found an answer. Like I said, I'll keep that between us, but it was something to do with the muscles. And one day the doctor came in, said, there is no answer for this. The only way to keep that baby with us is to breathe for her. So we had to make a massive decision. A decision's not enough. Decision's not enough of a word to describe the balance of scale that we were trying to understand. But the doctors did say there is no system for keeping alive with a breathing machine. So we made that call along with the doctors to turn the breathing machine off. And as you can imagine, that left a huge amount of trauma and still does. But I want to be clear, that continuum that I talked about, that Jimmy Hunt helped frame up for me, it helps. It helps to know where you are, because we are okay. And, we are very blessed to since then had our fourth little baby, and life is optimistic and life is hopeful, but there is trauma in my life, and I used hope to help me in that moment. So after sharing the story with you, this is how I used hope. So when we knew that this was going to happen, that the machine was going to be turned off, I remember building a picture in my mind that the two children we had would not be defined by this moment. I would articulate it to my wife by saying, it can't be that their life up until that point, they were like 7 and 10 or something, they were little boys. And I remember thinking, it can't be that their life was amazing up until that moment, and then mum and dad changed. It scared me to think that trauma would all of a sudden change them forever. And I remember using that story of hope to say, I'm not going to let this moment change their life forever. And I really tried to honor that. I don't know if I've always been successful. Parenting is a extreme job. It's many roller coasters and loops. But I believe if you asked my 2 older boys, they would say that trauma in my life did not get passed on to them. And I used hope for that. I hoped that I could do that. I hoped for me and my wife that we could do that. And I built a picture of hope. That's why I said at the beginning, you use hope. Use it to step ladder you up. And I guess I just wanted to share that little anecdote or story, or maybe to tell myself that, thank you for thinking about that, and thank you for not letting it bottle up. So maybe we'll end it here. Yeah, thank you all for taking time to sit with me in the car as I debrief a little bit of my story with the goal of sending out that beacon to you. Okay, thanks. 2, 3, 4. Thank you for tuning in to this frequency of hope in our podcast today. If you found value from this episode and want to hear more, I would love it if you could follow, subscribe, and rate our show. By doing so, you will increase the frequency of the beacon of hope. So if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or any other platform, please take a moment to hit the follow or subscribe button and leave a rating and review. I truly appreciate your support and feedback, and it helps us make our podcast even better. Thank you.
Be good. Be safe. And be happy.